Still queuing. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Joe of the West.
And I am Zeal of Sparta.
And welcome to our semi-regular weekly podcast. I know we've been gone for a while. A lot of stuff's been going on, at least in my personal life, and I think some with yours too.
Yep, more travels. Go figure.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do this on the road. I mean, I guess we could get on the phones and do that, but, you know, we didn't.
Yeah, we were supposed to go live last weekend, but I had the luck of the draw. I had a brand new microphone, which I'm wearing now. It's a headset, rather. New Sennheiser Game Zeros. Dual-purpose use, of course. And then my laptop decides it wants to die on me, as in hardcore power failure.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun at all.
Yeah, 2 power bricks, useless.
Well, I've had less destruction going on. Got some interesting news, which I can't talk about now, but some stuff may be coming up on the job front. So I maybe talk about that in the next few weeks. But anyway,
unless it's top secret.
Well, it's not top secret, but it's not. It's official, unofficial. Basically, the people I'm talking to tell me the documentation I have is as good as a job offer, except it's not a job offer.
Yeah.
So I'm basically, if I accept, which I have accepted, so basically if they, actually go through with the offer, it's going to be a complete uprooting of everything. But anyway, so without further ado, I just want to let everybody know, if you want to see more of what we're doing, you can look me up, YouTube and Twitter. Both are /JoeoftheWest. And Zeal, I think yours is Zeal of Sparta on the same channel.
Yes, Zeal of Sparta on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and some other media.
Yeah, we might be playing some Twitch games after games on Twitch, but we'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah, and I'm still dabbling with this thing called Beam.io, more specifically. No, or is it Pro? It's very experimental. You gotta love this new post.com era naming scheme.
Well,
for addresses. But without further ado, move on to a story.
Yeah, your first story, which should be up now.
Yeah. Let's just start by saying I love Japan. The glorious island nation that brought us things like manga, anime, just quirky, it's superbly technical individuals also bring us the fun absurdity of things like drifting Dodge minivans from the 80s.
I gotta say, this is awesome.
Yes, it is only in Japan, my friends, and it is glorious.
Yeah,
what else would you get people to just recognize vans for what they are, especially these older V8 real-world drive vans, and just go out and have a blast with them. They don't care that it's a van. It's just something you can have a lot of fun with on the relatively cheap. And as in the video, in the article will explain, it's called Dajiban, which you saw a few seconds ago. Which I think is appropriate because it is a Dodge van. It sounds like Dodge van. And, I think this is the Ebisu circuit in Japan. And they simply just race them and drift them and have a good time.
Yeah.
Most of them seem to be Dodge vans, but they're all unique in their own ways. And it looks like a blast. It's just this big, hollowed-out, rear-wheel drive sort of racing machine.
Yeah, I'm trying to find some good shots because I'm noticing the frame rate's pretty crappy on the broadcast. But I've got to figure out how other people do this. Where they'll show a video. They're basically restreaming a YouTube video, and it looks okay. It never looks great, but ours always looks like crap. But anyway.
We could blame Comcast.
No, it's not Comcast's fault.
I'm sorry. I'm just in the mood to poke at them since their network was being quite rubbish at work today. Ironically enough, my new home internet is much better than the work internet most of the time, at least on the raw bandwidth standpoint.
Well, yeah, definitely.
By the way, Google Fiber is working, as in it's kicking Comcast in the rear, and we now have 250 mbits a second.
Oh, so you have Google Fiber where you're at?
Oh, it's coming. I remember a few months back, I had to actually reroute on my way out of town when, well, the contractors, anyways, working for Google, accidentally poked a hole in one of the gas mains on the main road.
Oh.
And I was right there at the front of it. I was one of the first few cars to be diverted. It was chaos. But yes, they are in the immediate area, and it's coming to my complex specifically. And Comcast all of a sudden said, oh, we can supply 250 mbits now. With the 2-year contract, of course.
Yeah, well.
But it's better. It's more stable than the last Comcast internet I had at the other place, which is great.
Right. Well, one thing you didn't mention about the racing, which is kind of implied, is these are actually stock cars.
Yes, that's right. The only real difference between these vans rather, and the stuff you would have bought from the store new or used, is that they're hollowed out and the windows are removed.
Right.
That is all. They're stock. There's a few with a cold air intake, and, well, that's about it. So, yeah, it's basically stock.
Okay. All right. Well, the next story, unless there's something else you want to say on that, but I think we pretty much...
Oh, it's glorious in another way. It's like watching a whale do ballerina dancing. Do is not the right term, but...
I love it. But no, I do like old school stock car racing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't stand NASCAR, but the old, remember you can watch old like from the 60s and 70s where they built muscle cars.
Yeah, Mustangs, Camaros, Barracudas. If you go back a little further into the 50s and 60s, you literally had dozens, I think dozens of different manufacturers, including Nash, Healy, Dodge, Plymouth. There's a bunch of others. I can't remember. Some of them are completely defunct at this point. But they were stock cars. They were actual stock cars, not these crate engine cars with a plastered-on shell to a tube frame.
Which means theoretically you could buy a race car.
Theoretically, if you had enough money in the shop.
Okay. All right, well...
Nice
Let's
background.
move on to my next story, which our stories kind of tie together because we're talking about old cars being modified. I want to talk, this is kind of my public service announcement. Anybody who knows me knows I like to tinker and actually repair stuff. I really hate having to throw something away that should be simple to fix. And I think one of our earlier episodes, I can't remember which one, we talked about John Deere doing a thing where they basically programmed the computer in such a way that you had to get John Deere to do the repair or you were breaking federal law because of the DMCA. Do you remember that discussion?
Yes, and I'm a little hot under the collar thinking about it.
Well, let's not get angry on it because this is a group, and this is an article from Vice. I'm going to link to the actual group here in a minute, where they're basically lobbying for the right to repair everything. So the idea is you buy some equipment, you should be able to fix it. And I agree with this. Now, I could see, playing devil's advocate against myself, I could see like heavily software stuff. Like I understand if I'm writing, if this is primarily software driven, like if I'm writing a computer program or a video game or some financial thing or something like that. I understand that shouldn't be monkeyed with. That should be completely protected. I'm 100% for that. But if I've got a tractor, the tractor's main purpose isn't the software. The tractor's main purpose is to be a tractor. Or if I had a lawnmower that I can't seem to keep fixed, doesn't have any computer equipment on it, but theoretically it could have a computer chip that controls how the carburetor opens and closes, and whoops.
Many lawn tractors are getting some feedback here.
Yeah.
Many lawn tractors are still carbureted and not fuel injected and run on pretty much very little electronics, if any at all. Unlike the Raven we had. My parents bought a Raven lawn tractor a few years back, and it was awesome. It was a hybrid lawnmower. Yes, it ran off electricity and gas, but it had computers galore.
Right.
It was a hot mess, but it's going to be a cool product once they work it out, I think. But this has been an ongoing issue the past few years. Cars were some lobbyists, probably within ADA, were trying to shove a law through Congress outlawing non-certified repair shops from working on the car or modifying the car.
Right.
Just like my car, I've got one model in it for now, and that's a strut tower bar. Something as simple as that would be considered illegal under the former act. But there was an outcry, and people shouted at Congress enough that they passed. It was either the FAST Act and or the RPM Act. Love the acronyms. That basically made it legal for the foreseeable future, that people can repair their own cars or modify certain cars, at the very least, and do their own race cars. So that, at the very least, is not illegal for now.
Yeah,
the automakers' arguments were that people would potentially mess with the software and cause a safety issue. But some viewed it as a straw man's argument because it would also outlaw people customizing their cars, whether it be changing body kits or getting more power out of the engine via an intake and exhaust and so on.
Yeah, and I'm with you that it's mostly a straw man for sure, because there's already protection. Like if I write a piece of software, like let's say I did something like wrote software to control, like if I did air traffic control software, me and my company, we sit down, we did the software, and we sold it to an airline.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a lawyer, so I think there's a little bit of weird legal stuff that may make this different. But the way I understand it, if they use the software in the way I said it should be used, then it's fine. But if they go in there and they start modifying the software, I can wipe my hands of it completely. So the automotive industry, I get why they would want to protect people, but it's not an issue.
That's not the real. At least a lot of people believe that is not the actual case of why they're lobbying it. It's just like.
Well, you have to remember too. Back in the day, automakers would change something minor, like they would change the mounts for door locks. They would change the way the engine mounts into the engine bay every year or two. Sometimes
thanks GM.
Year. It's not just GM. Ford was the lock example. That's actually Ford, if I remember right. But the point is, because it was an old Mustang I had, because depending on if it was the first half of the year or the second half of the year, I had to get a different lock.
Yeah.
And then Congress had to come through and say, no, that's ridiculous. You're trying to, maybe they didn't put this much thought into it. Maybe I'm giving too much credit, but it seems like they went, no, you're basically doing too much planned obsolescence. And they had to support, because what they did is they used the law to protect they had a patent on how the motor would mount into the engine bay. Okay, then they changed that. Well, they still had the old patent, so nobody could make aftermarket parts. So what they would do, what Congress said is, okay, fine, you get 10 years. 10 years, you must make the parts. The parts have to be available for 10 years for every vehicle. And then afterwards, you can license it, but somehow you have to make available to third-party manufacturers the ability to make the parts.
Right.
And this is the same kind of mindset I'm seeing here is, well, we're just going to put in software, and because software is big and scary and people don't understand it, we're going to get laws passed, and anybody who tries to do anything with it, they're the worst criminal ever.
Right, and unfortunately, our governing body is not exactly tech savvy.
Right. There's a couple
to understand fully what's going on.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but there's a congresswoman and there's a couple other people in Congress I saw during the Apple stuff, and I can't remember their names right now. They asked a lot of intelligent questions when they were talking about the encryption issue, because
Right.
Remember FBI wanted to basically force Apple to put back doors in.
Right.
They were trying all sorts of stuff like, well, it won't be a back door, it'll be a front door. You'll have two front doors, the password and the super secret key that you give us, and nobody could answer the question, at least to my satisfaction. What happens if that key gets out?
Yeah, just like Microsoft's recent loss of their golden key.
Yeah, the trusted platform module, which I didn't use anyway because it was a pain in the butt because it forced you to stay on Microsoft if you turned it on. Yeah, so
it would have turned into an Apple-like system. Keyword like.
Well, basically, sometimes I run Microsoft. Sometimes I run Windows 7. Sometimes I run Windows 10. Sometimes I run Ubuntu. And rarely on this machine I run Debian, but I do in virtual machines because that's more server stuff I do.
Yeah, you have a multi-boot system. Yes.
But the point is, I could pick one and only one. That's it.
Right.
That's it. And it makes sense. Like for my phone, I actually like TPM for something like my phone because I'm only going to ever have that OS on it. But I want to be able to turn it off because I might want to jailbreak it or put a different OS on it. But things that this is always going to be what I'm running, that's cool. I like it. But anyway.
Right. That sort of thing's more or less for dedicated machines like point-of-sale machines. Or
something like a tax repair. Fix your taxes now. Like a tax service or an accountant or a hospital. You want to make absolutely sure your system's not compromised.
Right.
That's good for that.
It's good for a lockdown.
Yeah. And even though the golden key, as they put it, is out, which that's a good story we could have done for an addendum, I guess, or maybe another episode. But the trusted platform module, just because the key's out, it's more. I don't think it's that big of a deal because not that many people were relying on it.
Right.
If we're relying on it, we're screwed.
Right.
And the problem is you can't change that key because if you could change the key, then the system's not. If you could change the key, the software wouldn't trust the hardware, and if you tell the software, no, trust this hardware, well, then all you do is you fake some hardware and tell the software I want to trust the new key. So
right.
It's a really sticky mess.
Yes. Yeah, it's just one of those things. The right to repair. It leads into all of these different issues. It can be like a runaway freight train of issues.
Right.
It's not really a simple issue as, oh, we just don't want people to break things that could be very, very important. Well, no, sometimes we can make them better. Sometimes they're for R&D. Sometimes they are for personal use. Like,
here's
back to the car thing again. I may need to adjust the powertrain control module software using a tuning device that is aftermarket and would require there not be a law banning this sort of thing for me to add like the GKNs e-axle or electric axle, turning my front-wheel drive luxury car into an all-wheel drive hybrid V6 luxury car, which I want to do. Just modify its capability for my own personal preferences.
Yeah, that's. I think it's a little bit beyond what we're talking about. But
that's just a personal use case for myself for wanting to quote fix something.
Right. Well, anyway, anybody who happens to see this, I would encourage you to go straight to the source. Go to repair.org. I can't believe they got that URL.
That's awesome.
And just check them out. And I don't know if they're taking donations. I don't normally promote donations. But definitely support them. They're supported by the EFF.
Oh, good. I was hoping you would mention them.
Yeah, they're definitely part of it. I don't know if it was formed by the EFF or they've just got backing by the EFF, but
I would think backing, considering the EFF has been a proponent, has been a backer of many freedom of use issues. Yeah. It is time to fix the DMCA, like the stream says. I've fixed a lot of consoles myself. I repair my own computer. I built my own computer. I've had to put my Xbox 360, my first one, back together because after about 3 years, it got the dreaded red ring of death. So I had to unmount the cooling assembly, the fan and everything, and reattach it to the CPU with the backs and everything with fresh thermal gel so it can work again.
All right. And just so you know, you're about 15 seconds ahead of the actual feed.
Okay.
Just, there's my background.
Which is lovely.
Yeah, I can't remember where I stole it from. But this one, the next story is yours too, which this is just a bunch of awesomeness. I think it's actually an ad, but it's the laser cleaning.
Yeah, it's basically an ad for a specific system, which there are more than just this one out there. But as we all know, lasers are awesome. Lasers that are very practical and look cool and sound cool at the same time is a triple win. This laser in particular uses a certain frequency of light, and I think it's about a kilowatt laser, is used to remove rust. And it does so in like waves. It's quite cool.
I got to admit, I was at work when I saw this in the notes, and I clicked on it, and I basically stared at it for the whole thing. This is Star Trek type stuff.
Yes.
They basically wave the magic wand, and it all glows off.
And it's very clean. It doesn't damage the metal at all. It just vaporizes the rust. It oh gosh. Come on, I'm experiencing connection issues here. Shouldn't happen.
Well, I can still hear you, so we're good.
Anyways, but it basically vaporizes the rust. And that sounds cool. Anyways, it vaporizes the rust. It breaks it down. Even there's very minimal off-gassing, really. Even though you can see it in the video, there's some material flying into the air, but it's relatively minuscule compared to the actual corrosion on the metal itself. And this can be used for many applications. I've seen another video where someone was actually removing corroded or old paint from a van body using a similar system. And this is just super practical. Do not know how much the cost is. I haven't got to look at that just yet, but it's
a small fortune, I imagine.
Yeah, but for someone who works on corrosion a lot, I know someone who does, it's a great system. I mean, it's just cool. It's lasers. You destroy the rust with lasers.
Now just strap them on top of shark heads. Oh wait, that's something else altogether. So anyway,
And I think the pegboard nerds have a song called "Destroy Them with Lasers" or something like that.
Okay.
Plug.
All right, let's move on to the next story. I'm clipping through these pretty quick, actually. So, pretty much everybody has Windows 10 now. I mean, not literally everybody, but it's now
like over 400 million devices as of today are in use.
Well, they had, and let me click through to the more important article. So, for those who don't know, Windows 10 comes with a store. I don't think a lot of people use it because it basically forces you to use what's known as the Universal Windows platform. And the neat thing about, I'm going to defend them a little bit, so please don't kill me. The neat thing about the Universal, from a developer standpoint, the Universal platform is if I want to write an app that works on Windows Phone and works on the desktop and works on their tablets and potentially works on Xbox, I can write it once and make very minor changes and get all those platforms.
Which is pretty neat.
But it will not be as powerful as your standard, what's called Win32 desktop apps, which Win32 comes from the fact that they used to be 32-bit Windows applications.
Right.
So now, well, let me back up. Before, you couldn't buy or put those in the store. They had to be the new modern universal platform, and a lot of companies weren't writing for it because they already had their Win32 app. I mean,
right.
Been since 98, maybe 95, but not 2001 at the earliest. So if you go from Windows XP until Windows 10, pretty much everything in that range. And when I say XP, I mean Service Pack 1 for the, people's fact checking me. Service Pack 1 of Windows XP until today, they all work. Those are Win32 apps that use all the same stuff. They either run off of DirectX or they run off of some of the .NET technologies or whatever.
Right.
Now as a developer, you can put them in the store. Now, I have some mixed feelings about it because you have to put it in a wrapper. Let's see if I can pull it up. Evernote's the example they give in this article. So let's just see. Should check this out. Okay, so I think it's still the same thing. I think it still tries to use the whole modern UI stuff, but it's a Win32 app. So now you can publish your apps a lot more easily.
Yes.
So
basically, UWP, which is Universal Windows Platform, it's a platform for launching the apps in multiple spaces and be compatible with multiple platforms, which is great for the developer's exposure. But like you said, you have to basically design with those certain parameters. I still hope this takes off, really, because it would be very practical in the consumer space for those who would like to have consistency of use with certain apps and programs across their devices. And of those,
it is kind of like Java, because it's basically trying to solve the same problem that Java was supposed to solve, except it's a Microsoft-only technology. So, well, I say Microsoft-only.
I thought they were going to expand further than that because...
well, it works on iOS and Android.
Yeah. I was just thinking of programs like Cortana. Are not quite there yet. Smart AI.
Right.
Based off the Halo universe is Cortana. Yeah. She is also present on Android and iOS. But she originated on the Windows Phone, and Windows 10. Um, some, well, I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but the universal aspect of things is quite pleasant. I know a couple of people who were just elated when they were able to get emoji suggestions on their brand new iPhone updated, anyways, Windows or iPhone 10, iOS 10. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the new Microsoft service that's stretched across to the iPhone as well. I'm not sure if that's a standard thing or whatnot now, but I believe they're trying to integrate that service. But anyways, I digress. It's so now me and them, they and I can text and get the same emojis or whatever we want, and it be consistent and not break up like what it used to be on my mom's phone. For example, she had an iPhone that would she would try to send something and it would just not send properly.
Well, that's what Unicode was supposed to be.
Yes.
And I always find it interesting when these groups get together and they're like, okay, we will make a universal API platform, data set, whatever. We will make it, and all we have to do is just agree to use this one, and everybody talk to each other. It's like email. Everybody agreed back in the 80s, this is how we will do email. And that's why I can send an email from my Android phone to your Windows phone. Even though they can't talk at all any other way, I could do that. Same thing with text messaging. Text messaging and SMS, they've agreed on a standard, so I can be on AT&T and you can be on Verizon or vice versa. I don't remember who's on what. I don't remember what you're on. But anyway, or T-Mobile or whatever, and we can send text messages. Now, the emojis didn't count because the emojis weren't part of the standard, but they're part of Unicode. So if my, well, not the emojis, but if my phone implemented Unicode, or if we both of our phones implemented Unicode properly, which they probably don't, we could see everything. We could see all our emojis or whatever. But anyway.
Right. We digress.
The next story.
It's another standard to end all standards, which is not necessarily a bad thing, even though we're probably going to get yet another universal platform of some kind time again.
There's a comic I shared. I can't remember where I shared. I think it was on Facebook, where someone's, these two guys are talking, and they're like, there's 14 different protocols for instant messaging. This is insane. We need to do something about this. And then the next frame is sometime later, there are 15 protocols. They tried to make their own.
Yeah, companies will keep adding or innovating or coming up with something new that sort of just works with what they have already, and not the rest of the way across the board. I think a good anagram here or analogy is the USB standard versus the Lightning standard. Most phones can pretty much just use USB, and then the iPhone has Lightning, which only works with Apple devices, mostly the iOS devices. And yeah. And then there's no cross compatibility. And then someone will ask me, hey, you got an iPhone charger? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't. This happens at the office a lot. They'll lose an iPhone charger, and then they'll go around asking, and then nobody will have it.
Right. Oh, and it depends on which iPhone you have.
Yes.
You have one that's 2 years old. You have a 2-year-old iPhone? What is wrong with you? So anyway,
business purposes.
I keep teasing your next story. It's flashing all over the screen because it's a rant. So save your ranting for this one.
It's not actually a full rant, though. I just had more of a reason to rant afterwards. Yes, Destiny Year 3 came out, and yeah, so far mostly so good. Some mixed feelings. Some people are butthurt. Some people not so much. Yes, Destiny Rise of Iron, aka Year 3 Destiny, has arrived as of just over a week ago, actually, or maybe about a week ago. And a lot of people have been trying to play it, actually. So the servers have been quite challenged. I'm not sure which cloud software or server company they may be using, or if they are hosting their own servers in their own building or whatnot. So there's supposed to be a lot of new content to stretch across the year, and I believe they're going to trickle out some of the extra content related to the Rise of Iron. But right now, there are a few missions. There are new strikes and a new raid, which people are trying to beat right now. Some are failing miserably, some are actually getting through. Well, right after I entered the note that I'm going to do a few impressions on Destiny Rise of Iron for year 3, I tried logging in to play, and I got one Crucible match, which is PvP, in, and then I tried to go to another, and then all of a sudden the game seems to have forgotten that I owned a copy of Rise of Iron. And so I was going back and forth, quitting the game, resetting the Xbox, even uninstalling it and reinstalling it once, and it still didn't work. This was about an hour later. So it was me and like a group of 5 friends. We were about to go into a match, but we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do that involved non-Rise of Iron content because it was being screwy. But by the time we actually made the decision, it all of a sudden decided, hey, you have Rise of Iron. Want to play?
You were like, no.
It took you that long. Slamming doors. Lovely. But yeah, it's a lot of fun so far. The new missions are great. The new region, the Plague Lands on Earth, is quite cool. You get to see Lord Saladin's face. No, you do not get to see the Master Chief's face, but there's another guy like him. You actually see his face. There's a new social region called the Iron Temple, and it's quite awesome. It's way high in the Russian mountains. It's got quite the view. There's a jumping puzzle, and there's a new game mode for PvP, which is called Supremacy. Thank Kill Confirm from Call of Duty. It's basically that same concept, but it's pretty fun.
Okay, well, I mean, none of that means anything to me because I don't play Destiny.
Yep, you are not a console gamer. Destiny is an Xbox and PlayStation exclusive, which Rise of Iron is exclusive to the new generation consoles, not the previous generation, like the 360 and the PlayStation 3. That is no longer supported. They will be forever frozen in time.
So if you bought a copy of Destiny for the 360,
you're basically stuck at the end of year 2. They give you a chance to migrate to the new console. You can split the 2 characters. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that because that makes it more like a PC. If I've got an old computer that can't handle the latest, expansion of WoW or whatever, which would be kind of funny, right. I just buy a new computer and keep going. It's not tied to my computer.
Right. Destiny from day one has been a WoW-like service in the fact that it's an MMO, so to speak, even though it's different. It's kind of a hybrid between your typical first-person shooter, an RPG, and an MMO in the way it functions. And one thing that really made me happy with year 3, unlike what they did between year 1 and year 2, is year 2 weapons and armor carry over to the new year, and you can upgrade them to the new stats. Like previously with year 1, there's this leveling system in addition to the standard level system called light level. Excuse me. One of my favorite weapons is a hand cannon called Lord High Fixer. It has a third eye, which allows me to still see my radar when zoomed down the sights, and rangefinder and send it, which those two increase the range. It's basically my pocket sniper rifle, so to speak. That was a year one weapon, though. It maxed out at light level 170, and I could go no further with it. So it's only useful for me in level balanced PvP or Crucible playlists, which is not all of them, but most of them. And I cannot use it in PvE against the AI or in strikes, so it's useless there. But the new light level for year two ended up being a 335 cap, and now it's going up into the 350s and soon to be 380s and eventually to 400 later in the year once they release the hard mode content for Rise of Iron. But I'm carrying over a lot of my year two equipment, which I'm looking at now on Bungie.net. And I have like one that was an early year two weapon. It's at light level 338. It's the Objection 4. I have the Queen's Choice, which is a sidearm. It's now 340 in my year two Mida multi-tool. And as you'll see in one of the videos of Red Death, actually it's on right now. That particular Red Death, it's now to year two spec. Or I'm sorry, that's my year one Red Death. That was back when the light level was 34, or the character level was 34.
Right.
But I have a second one now that I had to buy again, basically, and then upgrade it in order to be able to use it in other spaces that required a level. So that's a huge plus in my book. It's something so simple, but it is just really, really nice that it's there. And that you can use it and not just stuff. I had to stuff the vault full of a bunch of my year one weapons that I will never get again if I delete them. And they're only good in certain spaces.
Okay.
So I had to keep 2 sets of everything for them to be useful in everything.
Okay. Well, I guess Destiny rant over.
Pseudo-Rant.
Yeah, well, I expected you to actually be upset, and you were not upset at all.
I did not get as much game time as I had hoped this past week because, well, live for 1 and server issues for 2 and
okay.
Freaking internet. Yeah.
Well,
it's a lot of fun so far, and I look forward to week 2, which starts tomorrow. Their reset day is Tuesdays. Yeah.
So they're copying World of Warcraft.
Is it Tuesday for WoW?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's also Tuesday for Microsoft, so I guess Blizzard copied them.
All right. Well, speaking of Microsoft, the Surface all-in-one PC, they're supposed to be launching a new one. Now, I didn't really want to talk about this too much. I just knew it tied into my earlier story about you being able to use the Windows Store for actually applications that I would actually use. The neat thing about it is there's not talking about a lot of it. I think they're calling it a Surface 5, but there's a patent for a modular all-in-one PC that they applied for in 2005.
Wow.
That basically, I don't know if it's up on your screen yet.
It is.
But it's basically a full-fledged computer that you can dock. Well, it's a modular computing device. So basically, it's a dockable tablet that turns into a laptop, which we've seen before. I mean, to be completely honest, we've seen this before. It's nothing new. But since wow, their articles are really weird on here.
Yeah, a lot of news sites are continuously scrolling articles now instead of having a bump stop at the bottom.
But anyway, so I'm probably won't get this because I'm a desktop guy, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll end up getting one so I can have something reasonably powerful that I can take with me, that I could dock if I want to.
Yeah.
But
like a laptop replacement would be my use case for it.
yeah, because I bought a couple of they were Android tablets, so they're not full on Microsoft tablets, and I rarely use them.
Right. I bought one as well, thinking, hey, I could probably use this on the go, but it's not a Windows machine. It's not a fully capable Windows machine, and then therefore, like, can't exactly do a whole lot with it, and certain aspects of it break. Yeah, not fun. One of the best non-Windows devices I've seen and had my hands on is like a Samsung Tab S in the titanium finish, one of the newer models. It's a nice, sleek machine. It's great for surfing the web and whatnot, but once again, there are a few things I can't do. Like some of my editing apps and apps for work, I cannot use.
Right. And I found the stuff that works just for a tablet. I usually end up just using my phone, which is more what used to be called a phablet. I don't know if they still call it that now. So I'm kind of excited to see this, because if we could finally merge that difference, basically, if I could have a computer that I could carry around like a small laptop or a tablet that could do most of the stuff I can do out and about,
Mm-hmm.
and come home and dock it. At this point I may have a gaming machine and a work machine, instead of having, like, right now my gaming machine is my work machine.
Right. So, yeah, it's nice to have that capability. Right. I have a 5.7 inch screen on my Lumia 950 XL. It's a great phone. It does a lot for what I need it for. But I'd still rather sit in front of my 29-inch work monitor and read stuff on it than a phone. And there's only so large you can make a phone before it becomes a burden just to carry around. It is a phone after all.
Right.
And just the natural funny natural the keyboard and mouse is not exactly natural, but it's easier to flow around with that.
Right.
It would seem, my day-to-day use anyways, when trying to view things.
Okay. All right. Well, there's not like I think I tried to say earlier, there's not a lot to say on this. Because we've seen all this before. The fact that they've talked about the fact that they've recently put in a new patent makes everybody think it's going to be one of these dockable or I keep calling it dockable. It's really a dockable tablet.
Right.
So I guess anyway, moving on.
Yeah. There are more things like this coming down the pipe, I'm sure. I've been seeing rumors of a new Surface phone, and reading about some pretty fantastic specs, but it's still down the road, if anything. MS Ignite is going on in Atlanta right now, so I have no idea. And it could be one of those devices with Continuum 2.0, etc., etc. That's one reason I bought into the Windows Phone, the Lumia 950 XL, was that potential to plug it into a dock and pop up on the big screen and be able to use that stuff with the universal Windows platform programs, the apps, like we were talking about earlier. That potential is growing more and more each year.
Okay. Well, anyway, I haven't watched this yet. You shared. Well, I had on the previous ones. I had done a. I didn't know how vulgar we want to get, but a dummy of the week. And Zeal is gone. Boop 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 beep boop. So, do we want to wait a second? Welcome back. And you're gone again. This is the part of the podcast that we sit and wait for Zeal to come back.
And I'm back.
Well,
Something went wrong with Hangouts for a moment. Not sure what.
well, you're back, and you didn't miss anything, I don't think.
We were transitioning, I believe, to the very last fun bit.
Yep. We'll politely call it the dummy of the week.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and share this, and we really got to do something about the frame rate, but oh well. Can't do anything about it right now.
Okay, mine's playing. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I was literally about to say I'm not sure what happened here, and that's the first line I see when I glanced at the screen.
Yeah. Not to spoil too much, which is probably pretty obvious at this point. They could have done a lot to prevent this from happening, in my opinion. But forethought is golden when it is there. All it takes is a little too aggressive touch of the brakes to really make your day bad.
Now, if they had some of those lasers we were showing earlier, they could, laser off the rust.
Yeah, they certainly need that. I'd say they can knock it all out in a couple of hours. Maybe a little more than that. All for the low payment of $59.99 for 20 installments or something. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, oh.
Oh. That's not getting better.
And then he bails.
Yeah.
And just listen. Turn up the volume for this.
Well, I don't normally play volume because I keep.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
What you would hear, and you surely saw, was the hinges and bolts snapping off of the ramp.
Yeah, I think we heard that.
Catastrophically snapping. That would be called a catastrophic failure. And you see this barge that they were trying to load the pipes on was attached to a tugboat.
Yeah.
They should have been forcing it up against the ramp, in my opinion, just as extra security.
It looked like, to me, the boat started to move away from the ramp. I'm sorry, the ramp started to move away from the shoreline.
Yeah, the prevailing theory that's posted in the article right there at the bottom below the video is that the truck driver accidentally hit the brakes a bit too hard when trying to slow down.
Yeah.
And then it just transferred the motion as basically the trailer with its brakes acted as a push rod.
Right.
And shoved it off.
Oh, no, I can see exactly what happened.
Yeah.
It's just,
you're
right, the tugboat should have been pushing it against the,
right.
Not hard, but.
I've seen worse.
I like how the guy that's there, that's just standing there, doesn't look phased at all.
No, people in their cameras.
Stop to record. I'm half think he's sitting there texting.
It does look like he's texting.
Because he was texting before anything was wrong. I mean,
or he was probably just there to record something going wrong if it did. Because dirt ramps and loading equipment onto a boat, that never fails, right?
Well,
actually, I've seen in much worse conditions, a crane or a dirt digger basically try to load itself onto a rickety boat off of a dirt ramp similar to that one, and it tumbled over because it lost its balance on the boat. The boat was a bit too small and it was a bit too heavy and imbalanced. It's just, I've seen this several times before. Dirt ramps are never good options to load.
No, I would imagine.
No.
Especially if where you're going moves.
Yes, everything needs to be tied down. That's why they anchor it. That's why they moor it. That's why there's a port side to every boat. They weren't using the port side. Spoiler alert.
That's a good point. All right. Well, that's all I have.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was a fun.
are we still doing the question of the week? Because I didn't come up with one.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. Well, one of the prevailing theories or themes, rather, not to repeat myself, was there were two things really: being able to fix what you want and develop what you want, really, and or how about this? All things considered equal, would you rather be able to have the capability to develop something and it be on all platforms, or fix anything you want and have to know several design languages?
That's sounds like a false dichotomy to me.
Okay.
Do you want to fix everything, or do you want to be able to?
Or which one do you see as more of a well,
I was gonna say, if you could fix anything, if you can fix any of your devices, what would it be? Maybe that.
Yes.
That's a simple one, and it's probably tweetable.
Yes. You know what? We can actually do a straw poll. If you could fix anything
you want,
list A, B, and C, like car, computer, phone/game console, or other. Consumer devices, basically.
Well, if we do that, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
And it stopped auto flipping. So anyway, well, that brings us to another end of the Pseudo-Random podcast, episode 20. A little late, better than ever. So for September 26, 2016.
Same pseudo place, same pseudo time.
Since pseudo means fake or false, then I guess that's correct. It will be at the same false time.
Semi-consistent.
So anyway, in closing, if you like what you saw, what you heard, go and give us a like or leave us a comment. Not necessarily trying to fish for likes or comments, but it does actually help us out and know that if we should continue doing this kind of stuff, and it
helps us spread the word, so to speak.
And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter most days, twitter.com/JoeoftheWest. And
same goes for me, at Zeal of Sparta on Twitter and elsewhere.
All right. And until next time, we are out.
Peace.